An undercover FBI agent working college basketball's corruption scandal is himself being accused of corruption. Could Arizona be cleared? Did beloved Wildcat and Warriors coach Steve Kerr disrespect the Phoenix Suns by letting his players coach themselves during their blowout win? And Tucson gets a top ranking, but as one of the nation's most distressed cities? These stories and more next on the 520. Welcome to the 520. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Arnie Mata the Fourth. Thanks for joining us.
You ready for this one?
Of course.
A lot to get
Number
to.
18.
We're going to start with, could Arizona be cleared in the FBI's investigation into college basketball corruption? A judge is expected to hear arguments this week to determine whether or not to dismiss charges against some of the defendants. That's because the same undercover FBI agent who outed former Arizona assistant basketball coach Book Richardson and 3 other coaches is himself the target of a corruption investigation. According to the Wall Street Journal, the agent is accused of misusing government money on gambling, food, and drinks to build his case against Richardson and the other coaches. Are you surprised by this?
Sigh of relief for everybody involved at the least.
Yeah, that sigh of relief you just heard right now, heard around the world, is Sean Miller, Book Richardson, and the U of A.
Of course. To me, this could either play out one of 2 ways. One, it's a good, nice slap on the wrist for everybody involved. We move on, we forget about it. Or number 2, this is going to drag on another 6 to 9 months until somebody gets found guilty of something.
I tend to think it's going to be a slap on the wrist, and here's why. One, no matter what happens, okay, whether this agent is found culpable or not, okay, he is tainted toast. His testimony, tainted toast. And here's why. Whether he committed fraud or not, or corruption, the bottom line is this. When the defense gets a hold of him, his credibility is going to be shot to hell. Yeah, period.
So are they going to find somebody else to get back on the case, or are they just going to dismiss the whole thing and act like it never happened?
Well, then you look at the number 2 witness who's set to testify in this case.
Just as terrible.
Okay, he's just as terrible. The only reason why he went undercover for the FBI is because he himself was part of a corruption case into fraud with NFL players. So part of his settlement, hey, let's get this guy over here to go undercover with us and try and bust open this investigation into fraud in college basketball. So put him on the stand, and his testimony, toast. I really think this is a huge development. I'm so disappointed that no one is really picking up on this and reporting this, because for U of A especially, oh man, they have to be like, yes, we finally, there's a silver lining in the clouds that have been hovering over McConnell Center for the last 6 months, right?
Yeah, of course. But as bad as Arizona played in their loss against UCLA, the Wildcats bounced back and played one of their best games of the season against USC. On Thursday, the Cats took an L. On Saturday, they bounced back, beating the Trojans 81 points to 67 points, in big part thanks to Riley Alkins. The sophomore dropped 20 points, including 4 threes. He scored 9 points in the previous 2 losses.
I love the way Arizona's playing right now, and Riley Alkins, major props to you for, coming back after scoring just 9 points in the previous 2 games and the big loss against Washington and UCLA, and coming back and dropping 20. That is the heart of a Lion. Gotta love it.
And where they're finally starting to make some progress in beating the zone, is that due to Riley Alkins? Is that due to their perimeter play? What does that do to?
Oh, I think it's great because, as Sean Miller said, this is the best game Arizona has played all season long. And it's not just on the offensive side. We know they can score in bunches. I mean, this is a great offensive team, but it's the defense that is key. And you look at the way they played against the zone and the way they're starting to play against the zone, I mean, man, it looks good for Arizona if we're able to continue to play good against the zone. It looks good for us in the NCAA tournament because, every team is bringing it to us because we have that perception that we're not a very good zone team.
We're not.
Well, we're not, but we're getting there.
Yeah, of course.
And I love how DeAndre Ayton is the zone buster. Coming up to the top of the key, passing the ball to him, He's popping that 10-footer. If him and Desan Ristic can continue to hit that shot, we are going to go far in the NCAA tournament. If we play defense. Defense
of course.
is the key.
Yeah.
And I say Arizona has got to mix in a little bit of zone matchup, my opinion.
Of course.
Well, despite being ranked number 17, the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee has Arizona as a top 16 team. Now, if the tournament were to start today, the Cats would be the overall 15th seed in the tournament and the 4th seed in the West bracket. The Selection Committee also has Purdue as 1 seed, followed by Kansas at 2 and North Carolina at number 3. But look at that, Virginia, Villanova, Xavier, and Purdue, all number 1 seeds. Love the fact that Arizona is number 4 and stays in the West to start off in Los Angeles.
But I honestly don't even think these projections matter.
Why?
It's cliche of me to say, look, all you have to do is get there. And once you're in, and it's all about who can last.
But where you're seated matters where the matchup is.
Of course, and that's all it's going to take for Arizona to see what they could possibly do if they have any wiggle room in this tournament. I don't think that their defense can last in this tournament. I don't think that adjustments can be made in 5 games on top of the dense 5 games that they have left.
We have 5 games left plus the Pac-12 tournament. Things could change, and that's why I think these seedings matter, though. Arizona is right there. Now, if the projections hold true, Arizona should be in the Elite 8, and of course, not good if we have to play against Purdue, who blew us out in the Bahamas, but you certainly want that chance to play them again to show that we're a much better team than we were at the start of the season when we lost 3 in a row.
Of course, the Wildcats possibly have a chance to move up to a 3 seed, but they'll have to beat ASU on Thursday. The Sun Devils are back in the rankings. A win could give the Cats a much-needed win over a top 25 team.
And beating ASU again at Wells Fargo Arena, where the curtain of distraction is and all those fans are going to be wild and crazy, would be a huge win for Arizona, which means that number 4 seed right now could change in the weeks ahead, which I really think Arizona needs to be a 3 seed to safely make it to the Elite 8.
Yeah, to beat the Devils, I think what the Cats need to do is first tune up the zone defense. And of course,
they have a matchup, in my opinion.
Of course, they got to take opportunities when they can. When they have a shot in the perimeter, they got to take it so that they don't put their defense in a position where they have to trust them. Take points when you can.
You know what? Throw the ball down low. ASU cannot stop DeAndre Ayton. He needs to be a force. But on the perimeter, we have to play defense and stop Trey Holder and Shannon Evans. Honestly, I hate to say this, man, but they are the best combo guard in the country, in my opinion.
Of course.
They really are. All right, well, here's the perfect example on why U of A basketball players like Alonzo Trier and Raleigh Elkins should stay in school and not leave early for the NBA. TJ McConnell just became the first Philadelphia 76er in history to record a triple-double coming off the bench. Only 5 other former Wildcats have posted triple-doubles in the NBA. The Wildcats, fan favorite, had 10 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. Remember Nick Johnson, McConnell's sidekick at guard, who left school early? Guess where he's playing? In the D-League. And he's still McConnell's teammate as a 76er, but in the D-League. It pays to stay in school and get that extra playing time. Because in the NBA, when you think you're going to make it and make the riches, you're sitting in the pine, and where are you going?
The D-League.
Exactly.
Of course.
And you know the irony in all this that I just love? Markelle Fultz, number 1 pick last year, out of Washington, okay? Supposed to come in and just take over, and they were talking about, well, there goes McConnell. He's gone. Guess what he's doing? He's sitting the pine. Left school, one and done.
I think what it comes down to is everybody just needs their opportunity to prove themselves. It's not, the 76ers don't have a dense lineup. They don't have a lot of depth. So it's just like when Jeremy Lin came out. When Jeremy Lin came out, everybody's like, where's Jeremy Lin been? He just needed that opportunity. I think the real question here is that early success going to last later on in the year?
I think so. He's a great 6-man in McConnell, and I think he needs to stay a 6-man because when he comes off the bench, he's a fresh of new energy, and the players love him. He's well respected, and that makes him a great leader.
And good stuff. They're 7th in the Eastern Conference right now, too.
Yes, they are.
Did Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr disrespect the Phoenix Suns when he handed over the clipboard, sat back on the bench, and let his players coach themselves? The Golden State Warriors absolutely murdered the Phoenix Suns this week in a 129-83 victory. Steve Kerr said, after their dominating win, quote, "It's the players' team and they have to take ownership of it. And as coaches, our job is to nudge them in the right direction, guide them, but we don't control them. They determine their own fate, and I don't feel like we focused well at all last month, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. I thought they communicated really well together. They drew up some nice plays, and it was a good night for the guys," unquote.
And Artie, meanwhile, Phoenix Suns for Jared Dudley responded saying, quote, "It shows a lack of respect for an opponent, and maybe right now we don't deserve respect." Well, Jared got that right. The Phoenix Suns are so bad. But did Steve Kerr commit a coaching foul?
I don't think he did. I think it's self-proclaimed. The
Well,
disrespect
bottom
label
line,
is self-proclaimed.
He disrespected the Suns, period.
I
There's no arguing. He really did.
I think he was trying to motivate the team, and that's the thing is that when you get whooped on so bad,
Motivate
you can't
who?
feel. Motivate
the
team.
Suns.
They were so
the team
focused.
he used to be with, not motivate the Warriors. No one's motivating the Warriors. They're the best team in the NBA, period.
Relative.
What I think he was doing, Steve Kerr's a great guy, and I think everyone kind of like forgave him immediately because he's such a great guy. But yeah, he disrespected the Suns. You don't hand over the clipboard to your players and let them just, run around like a little circus in the huddle and call plays. Yeah. You know what? It reminded me of when Steve Alford for UCLA called that timeout against Arizona last year with under 5 seconds, and they had the game in control. And then in the NCAA or in the Pac-12 tournament, Sean Miller called a timeout with less than 1 second. That was disrespect on both ends. This was disrespect.
Yeah, I think he was trying. He had a focal point of motivating the team. Look at what happened after the game. The energy was sky high. You look at footage from the locker room. These guys are finally having a good time. We're on the bottom end of the season, so we're trying to find out who can last.
If I'm a Suns player, I am pissed off. But you know what? Good. They need something because do Tucsonans really care about the Suns? Do you know the record? Can you name more than one player?
Devin Booker.
Exactly. He scores 80 points.
Charles Barkley.
Who cares? Who cares? We don't care about their record if they're 18-40. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the Phoenix Suns right now.
I don't.
That's the problem.
I got to agree with that. But suffice to say, in softball, it's all about pitching. The Wildcats' Taylor McQuillan tossed a no-hitter, including 11 strikeouts, shutting out New Mexico 8-zip. It's the 91st shutout in Arizona's history.
You really have to look at this softball team and have some great hope for Arizona this year. It's been 10 years since Candrea has taken the Wildcats to win a national title. 2007 was the last time the softball team won. But you look at pitching, no doubt. As the pitching goes, the team goes. And McQuillan, great pitcher, but the number 2 pitcher is Alyssa Denham. Just as important, she threw in 12 innings over the weekend, 4 games, 5 games, or 4-1. She only had 2 hits against her.
I think what the Lady Cats need to focus on is their out-of-conference play. That usually determines how their season turns out.
Yeah,
they have to focus on winning out of conference, and from the looks of it, it looks like they can compete this year.
And I love right now the hitting. Over the weekend, 12 home runs. Not by 1, not by 2, 6 different players. That tells you the entire lineup practically from 1 through 9 can hit a home run. That's dangerous. Combined with the pitching, I think Arizona has a real shot this year to take it to the World Series. I mean, last year was a heartbreaker when we lost to Baylor 4-3. I was at that game, and I cannot tell you, oh my goodness, the fans were just devastated by it. Because you look at May, when baseball's getting started and all, you're craving football, you're craving basketball, and the women's softball team just comes to life in this community. You want them to go to the World Series. It's almost like a tradition, a rite of passage if you grew up in Tucson, since the 90s. And of course, you were born in the late 90s, but you still witnessed a couple of championships.
Yeah, of course. I've seen 3 or 4.
Little toddler, right?
I'm sorry.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on. In the Pac-12, is the Pac-12 network finally getting something right? The number 3 ranked Wildcats baseball team will have 20 games televised this year. Finally, they're getting something right. The Batcats are also pumped up about its new indoor hitting facility at High Corbett. Terry Francona, the former U of A star and current manager of the Cleveland Indians, donated $1 million to build the facility bearing his name. And speaking of Francona, his Cleveland Indians, the team that used to call Tucson home for spring training, says it will remove its big tooth, red-faced Chief Wahoo logo on its uniforms in 2019.
That's fantastic, especially the last time this came up with the Redskins. When the Redskins owner said, we are never, ever changing our Redskin logo. The fact that Francona had to do this, it's a fantastic step in the right direction.
Finally, we agree on something.
Agreed,
so
agreed.
Far. Yeah. All right, let's jump right into Do We Care? As you know by now, we're not just a sports show. We like to sprinkle in a few community issues, break them down, and ask ourselves, do we care? Well, I'll get started. Tucson has a new top 100 ranking to put in its scrapbook. The old Pueblo ranks 91 as one of the nation's most distressed cities. A report done by the Economic Innovative Group cites highly concentrated areas of poverty and poorly funded schools. Surprise, surprise. Do we care?
It's not even do we care, it's are we surprised? And that's the thing is I don't even think that the people that are in a position of power even care. And so where do we go from here? We've seen ourselves on this, the city's seen ourselves on these lists numerous times. At this point, we're just beating a dead horse.
I agree, but it goes back to state lawmakers who continue to take credit for funding education and pouring more money into education like they're trying to do this year. But look at what this does for Tucson. The only thing we have going for us right now is Rio Nuevo. Thank God someone took it out of the hands of the city and is doing something really good with it. But I mean, everyone's telling Caterpillar, they're bringing great jobs and they're paying high,
taking away
income.
The only free parking in downtown.
But guess what? That's all we have to claim, our claim to fame is so far. Nothing else. Because of reports like this, other businesses are looking at Tucson and saying, I'm not going there. I mean, there's no workforce that's highly educated.
Of course.
It's ridiculous.
And Arizona's child welfare workers will soon need a court-ordered warrant to remove a child from a home who is being abused or neglected. The only exception is to go around obtaining a warrant as defined by the state senate is when the situation is dire or the child's life is in danger.
Leave it to state lawmakers to define dire. How ridiculous is that?
I didn't even ask you.
You're getting abused. You're neglected. But how dire are you?
It's
idiots.
It's leaving it up to the principle of relativity. I think it's a direct reflection of the state trying to cut corners again and showing exactly how short-staffed law enforcement is.
And you're absolutely right, though. They're trying to cut corners. You know why? Because the more children they have under DCS, the more funding they have to pay.
And they're trying to trim the fat.
They don't want.
They're trying to skip that line.
Yeah. While the People County Board of Supervisors rejected more than $1 million in federal money that covers costs for the sheriffs to work with the Border Patrol to fight border crime, including drug and human trafficking. All three Democrats voted no, citing President Trump's immigration policies. Do we care?
I do care. It sounds good to me. I think in the eyes of the Democrats that voted no, their perspective on the entire issue is the immigration policies put forth, raising prices for visas, not making it a lottery thing. I think they're saying, well, what else do we need? Why do we need to put more money into border security?
But in a county that's already strapped, they need that money, and we should care as a community. That's why they're looking at overturning this vote that is dumb, because it helps our community, our sheriffs, deputies go out there and fight crime and work in collaboration with the Border Patrol and everywhere else. Because guess what? Border crime is everywhere. It's not just on the border.
It's already here.
Well, there you go with Philadelphia. You got this one, man.
And finally, Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Nick Foles made the cover of Sports Illustrated 2 more times last week. That's 3 times in 3 weeks. Overall, Foles is a 5-time SI cover boy, a record for any Wildcat, top to bottom.
Of course we care. I don't care that you don't care. We care. As Tucsonans, we care. As Wildcat fans, yeah, baby, we care. You know why? It's done a lot for the city. It really has. And for the U of A. More importantly, Nick Foles is a great guy.
And I can agree with you. It's fantastic for the university. It's fantastic for this campaign that he's going to have to run to be a free agent, considering he's owned until the 2018 season. So it's good for everybody involved. Does he deserve it is another question.
Look, Matthew McConaughey, big-time actor, put up a billboard congratulating Nick Foles. U of A put up billboards congratulating Nick Foles in Phoenix just to rub it in ASU's stomach.
My goodness.
I love it. Well, you've heard the phrase, oh, no, you didn't. Well, here at the 520, we're not afraid to tell it like it is with, oh, yes, we did. The legal bills keep piling up on U of A and former Arizona football coach Rich Rodriguez, who is already facing an $8.5 million lawsuit claiming sexual harassment. The female victim, who was assaulted and tortured by Orlando Bradford, a former running back who is now serving 5 years in prison, has filed a motion to add Rich Rod as a defendant in her lawsuit. She claims U of A violated her Title IX rights, laws that are supposed to protect students from abuse. Her complaint says Rich Rod instituted and enforced a set of shadow policies, which included a document called the Hideaway Book. In short, the victim also accuses Rich Rod of covering up abuse to keep players like Bradford on the field so he could win games and collect bonuses. Turns out these allegations are proven true. I've said it once and I'll say it again. The U of A must do the right thing. Clean house. Heads must roll. And that includes going after Rich Rod for the $6 million he was paid after being fired. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable stuff. But as National Signing Day comes to a close and college coaches are bright-eyed for their newest additions, it is the evident truth that most of those bright-eyed coaches aren't even in Arizona. As Kevin Sumlin secured Jamari Joyner by the skin on his teeth, head coach of the 6A state champion Peoria Centennial Coyotes told Arizona Central that he reached out to the Cats upon Sumlin's hire regarding their all-state running back Zidane Thomas, and he never heard back from them. From now on, Thomas has chose to sign on with the lackluster Mountain West program San Diego State, and 6A runner-up Sean Aguanu of Chandler and 4A champion Jason Mons of Scottsdale Saguaro also told AZ Central that they haven't heard a peep from Sumlin since he was hired. While Mesa Community College District has now cut all 4 of their programs, it seems that we may be looking at the beginning of the end for Arizona football scene. While both programs are at ground zero with new head coaches, as Arizona football fans, they seem to be interested about how these men cannot end up like the rest and just get lost in the shuffle.
And you know what? It's going to get worse for Arizona because these lawsuits hanging over the U of A football program are going to be tough to bring in new recruits who are going to want to play. And how tough is it for Kevin Sumlin to start off his career at U of A and have a lawsuit hanging over him, another lawsuit hanging over him? I mean, it's a mess. He's going to be forced to clean this mess up.
And that's the thing is, I think if anybody was able to do it, they want the opposite end of the spectrum. They want a people's coach. I think he is more than capable of doing this. Things are looking up, but for these young kids, things might be a little diluted for them.
Well, I think the best thing going for Arizona right now is the fact that they are going to add $66 million in renovations on the stadium and building an indoor practice field to lure more recruits. I think that's the best thing that's happening for them because with these lawsuits, it's bad news. Well, bottom line, our goal is to tell it like it is because it's all about giving voice to opinions, even if you don't agree. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Arnie Mata IV. Join us next week on the 520.